It's just a complete meltdown. Anyway, we got loads to get through. So I'll just have a quick look out the window. I might pass to you.
You're up. Yep.
Trades in the FTSE could be interesting. I think obviously kind of like continuing to go for the upside is the most obvious here, but whether that should be done, I'm not convinced. I think that there is probably some downside coming. The area that we're in actually needs to hold, and if it does, then if this daily pivot, which is where people are going to start buying up, but if the daily pivot can cause and provide another springboard, then this market could actually go pretty far. I mean, we have got an area up here that I would say is probably the ultimate target. But as I say, I'm just not convinced. I mean, there's some pretty
You
good.
got any drivers?
Yeah, I mean,
Why should we?
China, America. They were on the phone apparently, and they've kind of reached a trade decision. They've reached an
Don't
agreement.
we hear this every Monday or Tuesday?
This is the thing, and I wonder why the market. Because you look at the market this morning, and this is the reaction. So you're absolutely right. I wonder whether the market is just a bit tired, and it's basically, some of the kind of bigger players have managed to suck in some of the slightly less informed speculators, and actually what we're going to get from here on in is a sell-off, because we are at a significant level here. This point has been tested along here a few times now, and there's also probably some sort of trend line coming through here somewhere as well, which is another reason why this spot is quite interesting. If this breaks down, then I suspect we're probably going to be coming down at least to close this gap. And that's the other thing about the market. It is quite, there's probably going to be a little bit of exhaustion up here, because it's come so far so fast. Within 1 2 3 days, which we picked up at the lows. I mean, if anybody remembers that, we picked it up right on the lows, but it's come 200 pips in a couple of days. I'm not sure what the current average true range is, but I always kind of go on the kind of 60 pip mark. So we've just gone beyond that, but not 60 pip range. This is 60 pips all to the upside. In fact 70 probably all to the upside. But certainly the area that we're in is a bounce zone. So anybody kind of like feeling that they want to get in the long, it might be a bit lofty here, and I'll show you why I'm getting a little bit concerned towards the end of this month. But it might be a bit lofty here, but this is definitely a bounce zone. When we sort of like had that trend line in place, it's a definite buy area. You see this here. That's the trend line on the daily charts. Come into the hourly, then you can see the daily pivots there. So it's a definite bounce zone. There's also this area here which kind of causes gives us that little bit of structure. And it's okay. I wouldn't be adverse at all to sort of saying that this could be an area that could now be bought up. I think the thing that concerns me is the very first bar. I'd like to see, the first 5 minute bar didn't come down, and when we kind of like consider this, it didn't come down and bounce very nicely at all. It kind of closed near its lows, and I find that a little concerning. And I think, in context, I'm finding it concerning because of where we are in the wider, the broader picture. But interesting that the speculation has been for a China-America trade deal, and we didn't have anything. And then it seems that they have had a decent phone call with maybe some meat on the bones of the the phase one trade deal, and the market does this. So as I say, I wonder whether it's been a little bit of a trap in some respects.
The boy who cried wolf, mate.
Yeah, well, it could be that, couldn't it? Because
Well, it seems to happen, as I said, every week you get this early in the week. Okay, we're very near a trade deal. We're very near phase one being activated, blah, 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 blah. And then come Thursday, Friday, oh, whoops, we stalled again.
Yeah, hold on one second, mate. I've got someone at my door. 1 second.
Right up. While Ash is gone, guys, I think I'll pinch screen. I should be able to do that. If I don't kick him out, that would be good. So just a few things I'm looking at. Got a couple of orders that I've got in the market. Actually, I might as well show you those. Not Aussie. I haven't got that. Last week we got into Euro CAD. This morning I was tossing up between Aussie yen short and the Euro yen short. So we took Euro yen short on a daily chart, actually, trading this bar here. So I'm short, well, I will be short if price comes down here, of course. I will be short Euro yen at 119.63 with a stop loss of 49 pips. So basically trading that bar. Reasons? Well, we've come off the top of not only this horizontal range or box range, if you like, we've also come off the top of this channel, which for mine, although getting very long in the tooth, is still a retracement on the bigger move, which is bearish. And I expect these retracements to break to the low side. So any chance to get into that, if it is going to do so, is kind of where I'm at. That's kind of where the ballpark I'd like to be in. I would like to have got into it here, of course, but that was not the case. And actually, I think I did place that order. Did I place that order? Can't remember. And I certainly would have bailed out after I saw all this anyway, because it's just garbage. But finally, it did break to the low side, and through the weekly pivot to the monthly pivot, then we got a little bit of a gap, and we've actually we opened below the monthly pivot there, and now we've retested both the monthly pivot and the weekly pivot. That's kind of telling me that if price wants to come back here again, it will go a little bit further, hopefully a lot further, and that's exactly what I'll be looking for. So pretty much playing the double cross or bounce and retest of the weekly pivot, but there is a genuine slingshot scenario there as well, just trading a break retest of a trend line or trade line, and looking for that A, B, C trade, and down to here somewhere would be really, really nice if it were to come off some 400 pips later, having risked 49. We'd be happy with that. So that's Euro yen. Yeah, when I think about the yen, I think, it just ambles along, and believe it or not, it's one of the strongest currencies this year. In fact, I think it is the strongest currency this year to date against the US dollar, which is kind of interesting. And that's the basis of the trade, really. The euro, let's go back to the euro and see why I'm biased. The euro short still. Reason is very, very similar to what I was just saying on euro yen, I suppose. But what we've got here in the big picture is a pronounced and very sustained and long downtrend. And whilst we've rallied back, we've really only rallied back to kind of that level there, and then bounced straight back off it. So to my way of thinking, that's still a lower high, and we've still got a lower low here. Lower high. This is the question mark now. Is this going to be a higher low, or is it going to be a equal low, lower low? Don't know at this point in time. Of course, some would say that low has already formed, and I'm happy with that. It certainly has on some time frames, there's no question. For me, I need to see a couple of candles either side before I call it a low, but it certainly does look as though that is a higher low, certainly in the making, if not there already. But the problem I have with that is, do I see a reversal pattern here? And the answer to that one is no. So I'm really not looking to trade a higher low here. I'm looking for price to come back to that low and test it again, or break through and continue with trend. So I'm happy to trade it short if I were up here, but I'm not up here, so I'm just not happy to jump in here. I'd like to see something a little bit more substantial than that. That, of course, is the bigger picture at the weekly chart. If we go back to the daily, you can see we've got a support level here in both the trade or / trend line and the bottom of this range that I have isolated with this rectangle. The interesting part about this, of course, is that we bounce straight off the bottom, or really establish the bottom, if you like. There's two lows here, two highs here, so that establishes the bottom for me. But as soon as we bounced off that level, we stopped at the first resistance, which was, of course, the monthly pivot, as you can see, which is this green line, and then we've catapulted back to where we came from, pretty much. This is really good for me, because here's where I like to find entries. At the bottom of the range, we're either going to do one of two things. We're going to break, or we're going to bounce. So all we need here is confirmation of either, and away we go. We're off to the races. So I'll be looking for this line to play a part today, this trade line or trend line. And what I'd seek to see is a break first up. Love to see them break, and then give me the indication that price is actually going to either continue to fall, or whether it's going to come back and rally again. So that would then give me the higher low that I need off this bottom of this range. So that's what I'll be looking for. If we take out this low, things change. But if we come to here, hit this support level, get back above, retest it, then that's my signal to go long. My signal to go short would be if this low is taken out, and then we get a retest of either or both the bottom of the range or the backside of the trade line. So they're the sorts of things that I'm looking for on the euro. Totally inconclusive at the moment, but as you can see, we're at what I call the trading zone, which is bounce or break territory, and that's exactly what we need to see, of course. So what we do now is take a look at the next currency pair, which is the pound US dollar. Just hang on 2 seconds, guys, and I'll see what Ash is up to. He's having a little bit of a problem. Okay, all good, mate. All good. So Ash has got to duck away, and that's fine. We'll just continue with my analysis for a little bit, and if we can find a trade at the bottom of the half hour, we will. Otherwise, we'll probably pack it up. Okay, so pound US dollar. Yeah, look, couple of things to note here. We have come off the top of the range and put in the lower high as we're looking for, then straight down, but failed to make the bottom of the range. If you want to tighten the bottom of that range up, I suppose you could and say that we actually did hit the bottom of the range, but I chose that as the range, so that will be the range. So yeah, the way you could look at this is a second lower high, having not hit the bottom of the range, and that's potentially what I looked at this morning and thought, is this our lower high? Do I want to trade this as a lower high? And the answer became, well, no, I don't. A couple of reasons. I don't like the candle, number one. It's a bit of a bugger of a candle, those spinning tops, preceded by a pin bar to the low side. Not a fan. It's kind of low test, high test, and we're right in the middle of this range as well, and the pivots very, very close together. So my consensus there becomes no trade. Let's wait and see which way we are going here. But really, when I see daily pivot and weekly pivot close together, that's telling me that price isn't going to move away too far from there. And so for that reason, I'll be staying out of this one for a while. If I have a bias, it's very, very difficult to find. Yes, we've had a very big rally, and then we've gone into this consolidation. That's a weekly chart. We've been in this consolidation for 2-4, now entering the 6th week. That's a good thing if we can find a way to trade it. And the daily chart gives me my bias, and it is to the short side. It's a little bit tricky. You can see that we've got a pretty clear false break of this trade line. And I suppose on balance, you could say, all right, well, let's trade it to the bottom of the range, the second range, which is this descending channel. And that's fine. We've actually got the false break signal that we need, but we've had a gap in the market as well. That confuses the issue no end for me, because I ask myself why and what happened, and why are we now in a bullish frame of mind, if we are in a bullish frame of mind, but it is an inside bar. So we've got about 80 pips of risk if we wanted to trade that bar or that candle. Our first obstacle or support level would be at around about 30 pips. That's okay. I'm not so bad with that to take first profit there. It's not quite 0.4 to 1, something like that. So I'm okay with that part. Then we've got 1 to 1 down here to the bottom, or thereabouts, not quite 1 to 1 down to here. And then we've got the monthly pivot. So I suppose in that regard, it's, if you're after a 1 to 1 trade, it's not such a bad thing to be thinking of. The problem is I'm a little bit concerned that this is a flag pattern and it is potentially going to continue long. And that could happen off the bottom of this range and away we go. It could happen straight away now, of course. If it did, then that wouldn't be so bad. You wouldn't be taken into the trade. But the gap really has got me a little bit circumspect, I think is the right word. Otherwise, I would be looking to trade this short at this point in time and taking a good portion off at the bottom of the channel. If you're so inclined, I see absolutely nothing wrong with that at all, really, except it's just not what I want. It's not my bias. My bias is probably saying short to get long, and I get that part. But yeah, I think there's probably better opportunities to trade at the moment than there is on pound US dollar. The issue with the dollar at the moment is, okay, have we got a trade deal? Have we not? Or have we got phase one of a trade deal? Have we not? Great question. Who knows? And as I said at the top of the show, this seems to happen every single week where we get that sort of news coming out. Yet later in the week we get, sorry, deal's off. So yeah, I think it's a bit of the boy who cried wolf. Of course, one day the wolf will be there. So yeah, look, a little bit each way here really. I see the flag pattern, so I'm thinking breakout to the top side is definitely a possibility. There's probably a confluence area up here that we can look at. Something in that vicinity. You want to hurry up if it's going to get there though. Maybe it will, I don't know. But at the end of the day, we've probably got to trade the range still and not the breakout. So if you want to trade the bigger range, which is the channel, then okay, I think there's a trade there. If you want to trade the bottom of the range, the horizontal range, then probably let's just wait and see if that's going to pan out and then look for a trade long. However, the false break is there as a signal. The gap is what's worrying me there. The Aussie. Now, the Aussie looks a little bit like it's basing over here. You can see all this. Well, we've spoken about this for weeks, I suppose, this triple, quadruple bottom or whatever it may be. And yesterday and Sunday, in the show on Sunday, I was pretty much of the opinion that we had our higher low sitting here, and that would have been a good opportunity to trade this long. And I think I've said it many times before, my ultimate target for the Aussie is to go to here. That will take a long time, of course, but you've got to get in there somewhere, and I thought this probably was the opportunity to do that. This is not my trade, by the way. This is a Waverider trade. I'm on the TTR webinar account, so that's why you're seeing that order there. Look, it's still there, and maybe this is an equal bottom that we're putting in. Maybe it's not. If this is taken out, this low here is taken out, then I think probably all bets are off again until we challenge these lows for another occasion. But it's still there as a higher low, barely, I might add. So my thoughts are, yeah, I'm on a weekly chart, don't forget, so there's plenty of time to get into this. I'm going to continue to have that bias until this low is taken out and we do have another look at those lows down there. So I'm still thinking long Aussie at this point. Trading it is another kettle of fish entirely. I don't see an opportunity here to trade it, for instance. But the first chart I was on when I chose this is interesting. It's kind of frustrating. We've got a trade line coming through here. We've got a break of the trade line. We've got some consolidation. We've tried to get back into this long zone, if you like, but failed. And we're at the daily pivot and now retesting the daily pivot coming off that trade line again. This is a classic, almost, if you like, classic almost, if there's such a thing, setup that says if price were now to go beyond the high of this bar, it would rally. I'm not convinced of that now. What I really like to see is a candle to close inside the long zone, then pull back and give me that break retest scenario. Hasn't really done that on the trend line or trade line, but it's certainly done it or doing it on the daily pivot. Trading straight into resistance here as well doesn't really appeal to me, but I can totally see that will be the case. If price comes back to here, it will rally. What I will wait for, however, is confirmation of that, and that should come through a break and retest of this confluence area. So that's what I'll be waiting for. If it does break, there'll be no drama. But if it does break here and retest, then I'll be looking to play this long. That's Aussie US dollar. And as I say, there's a big target way above us, and that's the one that I'll be seeking in the next few weeks if we can rally. It's up here 70.81 as I see it, or thereabouts. It's only a cloud of a price, of course. All right, we've got 3 minutes to the bottom of the clock, and therefore the next opportunity to trade on the 30-minute chart. So I'll just, those of you who were in EuroCAD last week with me last Wednesday, I think we got into this trade where we were trading the break back into the range, trading this bar here. As you can see, I've moved my stops to entry here. I haven't taken anything off the table. I haven't banked anything. I've simply moved my stops to entry, because if we're wrong here, then price should bounce and go long. If we're right here, however, we should stall at either the trade line or the weekly pivot, which is just ahead, and we should bounce off one of those two and continue to go short. And if that's the case, then our stop loss is in the right place, and we shouldn't be bothered. We should get the money. As I said, there's no risk in this now. Stops are at entry, but I haven't banked anything at this point. There was an option probably on Friday or even yesterday to bank here if you wanted to. You're around about half to 1 at that point. That would have been an option, and then move your stops to make yourself safe in the market. Maybe you'd be just about the top of that range if that were the case. And that was one way to do it. I thought, however, that I'd just move my stops to entry, and that's the way I've dealt with this. And hopefully, as I said before, we don't need to worry about that. And or even if we do, price gets to the weekly pivot and bounces off it and goes short, then I'm happy with that as well, of course. We shall see. If we, however, take out my stop, which is at entry, and then put in a lower high, I've probably managed this incorrectly. We shall see how that pans out. And if we do put in that lower high, I'll probably have a look at something else. I may also look at putting a second order short underneath this bar, depending on where it finishes. If indeed it were to test the weekly pivot and maybe even close on the weekly pivot by tomorrow morning, then I probably would place another short underneath that bar. We'll obviously see that one in the morning. And the one I did trade, those of you who weren't in the room earlier, I did place this order this morning on the daily chart. It's trading Euro Yen short, and we're trading basically the break and retest of the weekly pivot with our entry underneath the monthly pivot. This is a little bit late into this, I've got to say. I'd much rather have got into this, as I said before, off this bar here. That would have been the correct entry or the best entry. But we're not that far from there, I suppose. Let's pretty much where our stop loss is, as a matter of fact. Um, why am I taking profit so early, I suppose, is the question. Because I don't necessarily trust price to go through this level. That's why. So I want to get something off the table pretty quickly. And if that low does in fact become an equal low and we take off to the high side again following this, um, if you like, new trend. I don't call it a new trend. I think it's a retracement at this point. Well, I'm hoping it's a retracement. It certainly looks it on evidence here, and that's why I'm so keen to get short here. I think this can break and go a fair way, so it's pretty much a no-brainer for me to take that opportunity. It is caught, however, in a bit of a range-bound situation here. It's in a pennant formation, and as you can see, we've struggled to get back into that range, which is another reason I'm happy to trade it short. And there you go. If you wanted to follow the trade, the entry's at 119.63 with a stop loss at 49 pips. And as I said, taking profit early at 15 with a closing a third of the position at that point. And my second take profit is just before the swing here. And sorry, that's not correct. Go back to there. My second take profit is just here before the bottom of the channel, and I'll just move stops to entry at that point and let this run if it's so able to do. That's Euro Yen. I was tossing up, well, not so much tossing up, I suppose. Aussie Yen, I spoke about this last week, I think, where we'd had a beautiful break and retest, or a double cross, I call this, of the monthly pivot. So it's a break and re-break, something I do like to trade. However, since we've had, and that was a Friday, since we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we're working very, very heavily on a 7th indecisive bar, that's the reason I didn't want to trade this short this morning, and I chose Euro Yen over this one. This has got a lot of work to do to convince me where it's going. That's not a bad thing, of course, if we can identify a range, but really the range is very, very messy, and I don't see tops to bottoms to tops. I'm just seeing a mess, to be fair, and that doesn't excite me too much. What I potentially see here is very similar to what I just described on, what was it? Euro Yen? No, it's way back here, Aussie. Aussie 4 hour, maybe. Yeah. Where we've had the break, we've had the consolidation, we haven't managed to make it back above that trend line or trade line though, and therefore it's not the setup that I want to trade a false break. This is precisely the same scenario, coming in the opposite direction, where we've had a break, we've had consolidation. We did close below, which is kind of interesting. And you can see prices got caught up here now in the monthly pivot, weekly pivot scenario. Almost a false break to play short here, but again, it's very, very similar to what I described on the Aussie, and too tough to trade for me. Really, they're the only pairs that I've got any strong interest in at the moment. There was pound Kiwi I was looking at there. Reason I'm looking at pound Kiwi is pretty much where it is, the proximity of where it is, and you can see that we've been in this box range for about 5 weeks, and we have in fact broken for a third time to the low side of that, found the monthly pivot one more time, bounced off it one more time. Now we've come back into the range. We have really got the classic false break scenario that I like to see. That said, we have come a long way below where I would like to have seen it rally from, and that would have been the daily pivot here. An obvious place for this to rally and take us back to the top would have been the daily pivot. Hasn't done that, so I'm still monitoring this, and if I were to see a higher low here, that kind of gets me interested again. The issue I'm going to have here is, do I place this order? And I've got a double reason to do so. I think I'm going to have to place this order, because if it goes and I'm not on it, then I've ignored my signals. Pardon me. It's a bit sloppy, that side. But it's telling me the same thing. It's breaking, retesting. I don't like that trade line, I've got to say. So look, we will place a small long here on pound Kiwi. The stop loss is now the issue, and that's the reason that my stop loss was clear before. Underneath here, maybe I just put it underneath this bar. If this bar continues to go in the next, what, we've got an hour and a half before the candles close. This is the 4-hour chart. I'll have to reconsider, I suppose. I don't like the obvious put your stops under here, and the reason I don't like that is because if we were to enter here and put our stops down here, we've got 170 pips of risk to gain not even 1-to-1, and our first resistance is about 45 pips, not even a third, not even a quarter, just about a quarter of our risk. So I don't see that as being appealing. If we were to take this and put our stops here, for instance, we've got 100 pips, 0.5-to-1, that's fine to take our profit. And then we've got 1.5-to-1 when we get to the top of the range. That's kind of more like it. It's not perfect, but it is kind of more like it. I think that's why I've hung off so long. I couldn't really see a very good reward on offer here for the risk that we would have to take. Our third test of the monthly pivot is always a chance to break, always. But that's not how I trade. I won't be trading that. I need to have a signal that tells me that it is about to break it. And really all I've got is a signal telling me that we've come off that again and come back into the range that we've been in for, as I said, 5 weeks. So that's all I see. I don't see an opportunity to go short here. I'll have another look on the bigger time frame, if I can get rid of that thing that's haunting me. So if we have a look at the bigger picture, really what we've got is a very strong move up and consolidation. Some would call that zero retracement. And certainly when the market's going strong and we see a flag or a consolidation pattern, I expect that we'll have another crack at the high side. That's what I really think. So this is just a pause in the market for me. I don't see a reversal. I see just a pause in the market. So do I want to take on that third test of the monthly pivot? No, I don't. And as a general rule, I don't like to trade short at support. I like to trade short off resistance. So what I'll be looking for is when price gets back up to here, then to trade it short, leave something open in case we do go through the monthly pivot. Look, this may well be a trade on another strategy live T, but not for me. It's just not my strategy to trade this short from here. Long, yes, but not short. Did I say I was going to place this order, guys? I think I did. But I will change it if this candle goes further. So I'll cancel if this candle goes further. So I'm going to place the trade. I'll use the EA, the trade manager, because it's a 4-hour chart and it can manage it for me. I won't be in front of the charts for all that time. So what we're going to do is we're going to place an entry above this bar. We'll use my strategy. Risk to reward. I think we can go, we'll go 1/3 of 1%. So 0.34 will do. We're going to use the entry level 2.0153. 2.0153. Our stop loss at this moment will be 2.0045. 2.0045. We'll get rid of take profit pips. We'll go and put a TP1 at 2.020. 2.0203, and we'll remove 1/3 of the position. Our stop loss was, what was our stop loss? How many pips? 108, is that right? Yep, 108. We'll keep it at that. 108, and TP2 we'll probably change this a little bit as we go, but 20277 will be TP2. Forgotten already. Remind like a sieve. What did I say? 2.0275. I don't know what I said before. 2.0. Too many numbers. 275. There we go. It's a lot easier when you do all this manually, I reckon. And proportion to close again will be 1/3, and we'll leave the remaining 1/3 just to run. So it is a buy order. Okay, there's our entry. There's our first take profit. There's our second take profit. As I said, we may have to move that a little bit, but I'll just nominally put 122 pips, which is just past 1-to-1 on that. And as I said, the rest we will just keep in the market and let it rip. So if you missed that and want to follow it, the entry is at 2.0153. The stop loss is 108 pips. The TP1 will be 50 pips, and I'll close 1/3 of the position. TP2 will be 122 pips, and I'll close 1/3 of the position and move stops to entry at TP2. Okay, so that should be pretty clear by now. If not, any questions will be answered post haste. All right, 30-minute charts. We've gone well past the 30 minutes, but let's have a quick squiz, and then I will probably bid you adieu, guys, if there's nothing to trade. Okay, Euro, US dollar. I'm not going to trade anything there. That's a complete mess. Cable. We spoke about this before, and we have a bias, but do we have a trade? No, I don't. Yeah, the bias looks to be accurate. It looks to be going down to the bottom of that range. But again, on the bigger time frames, I didn't want to take that risk, but it does look keen, doesn't it? Aussie.
Hi, mate. Sorry, I am back.
G'day, mate. That's
Oh,
okay. No dramas.
okay.
I'm just about to close, so we'll get an opinion from you before I do, eh?
Okay.
Um, Aussie, no, same. Well, this is getting closer to a trade, but it's not there. Just placed an order on pound Kiwi, mate.
Oh, cool. We long Kiwi?
But it's on a bigger time frame. I'd be waiting for this to close, and if it goes bang, and then we get a retest of the trade line, then perhaps there's a short available on the Aussie against my bias. But there you go. If we, however, get consolidation underneath here, then get back above and retest, especially if we take out the daily pivot again, that would be a long for me. EuroCAD, the order that we've got in the market still from Wednesday, is still ticking along, and I don't see any reason to trade that at the moment either. Euro Yen going in our direction, but nowhere near our entry at this point. Is there a trade available on the 30? No, still a bit of a mess. So I'll be waiting on that one as well. What would I like to see? Yeah, I'm not too fussed at all, really, seeing this price action. I think I'll just stay with the bigger picture. And finally, Aussie Yen. This has got to come out of this congestion at some stage. Let's see if we can pick something. That looks a bit better, doesn't it?
What are you looking at with pound Kiwi, mate? You're looking at a short?
No.
Are you looking at the long?
Yep. I'll show you in a sec. La, 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 la. Yeah, same thing. Exactly the same here. If we break and find the support level, come back, retest, then there's probably a short. Same scenario if we consolidate at the support level, get back above, and take out, look at that, the three musketeers sitting right there, daily pivot, weekly pivot, monthly pivot. It's like a pivot sandwich.
Oh, yeah.
And that tells me just about everything I need to know. It tells you exactly where price is. It's ranging and not likely to go too far away from these. If it breaks out, obviously it breaks out, but this is why I don't trade long in situations like that, and it's also why I don't trade short in situations like that. I don't want to trade too far away from these pivots. So what I will do, if price gets a fair way from the pivots, I'll look to trade it back there. Same to the high side. But I don't want to be trading breakouts here. I want to be trading break-ins. Pound Kiwi just for you, mates. Just same. False break, false break, false break, off the monthly pivot, off the monthly pivot, off the monthly pivot, back into the range, higher low, or it was then. It isn't now, but it's a false break. We've got to break, consolidate, back above, retest. Just classic. Whatever I trade, mate. Same.
It's really interesting, isn't it? The Kiwi had some decent retail numbers overnight. And I was looking at it against the CAD because that was the trade from last week, and it did pick up, but I can see it drifting this morning. Whether it's waiting for something else, I don't know. But in fact, I think it is, isn't there? I think there is some Kiwi data out. We got Tuesday.
Yeah, actually, that was a very good number, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was the stellar. Yeah, it was stellar. In fact, we got the RBNZ governor or speaking later. Maybe people are waiting on that, which could create some opportunities, short term with the Kiwi. But it seems like a fairly solid reading on, certainly on the COT data. The Kiwi seems fairly solid.
Don't say that.
Well, I mean, it's I still think that there's opportunities for maybe a bit of shorting. And interestingly, the FTSE 100 is weakening so far this morning. And that does sometimes indicate some strength in the pound. So, I certainly wouldn't be giving you a different view necessarily on pound Kiwi. It's really just a kind of I guess just remind you that those numbers came out last night, and whether
Yeah,
whether
thanks. That does make a difference, and I'll just keep that in mind if we get into the trade. But the Kiwi, yeah, I kind of see it at a resistance level versus the dollar.
it's
As you
interesting,
say,
isn't it?
Nothing too exciting happening as a result of that news, that's for sure.
No, and I wonder whether it is just waiting on the governor, speaking. The FTSE 100, as I say, is just drifting a little bit. I quite like the short. It's a strange one. It probably needs to get another daily pivot, but I quite like the short on the FTSE.
Well, mate, if you want to show us, happy days. Otherwise, I
Yeah,
am
let's have a
done.
quick look at it. I mean, I wonder whether we've got to kind of trade the buy the rumor, trade the news kind of scenario. But yeah, let's just have a quick look at the FTSE today. There we go. This is where we currently sit. There's no doubt right now that this is a buy zone, so it would have to break down. But if it did start to break down, I mean, the long side just doesn't seem as attractive anymore. Even though this even though the hourly has managed to kind of like drift back with a bit of momentum, which is a safe zone to start buying. Looking at the kind of slightly longer term charts here, the 4 hour looks like there's a bit of a reversal bar. This bar is going to be quite interesting to see how that ends up. But you can see that just a little escape under this trend line and the daily pivot is going to suggest that we might well see the weekly pivot before anything else. But
especially if it gets under there and retests it. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I've just got my reservations about the FTSE just generally. I'm still kind of concerned about this weekly picture. This is the weekly chart, and I'm still concerned that we've got a right shoulder forming here. I'm still concerned that we've got this diamond pattern forming on the monthly. So I am just waiting for something to topple this over. We keep getting these extreme highs in the S&P. But it's under stress up here. We can see we've had a little break to the upside, but maybe a little bit of stress. And I tell you what really concerns with the S&P is that this level here was a really strong level, and I wonder whether it's a little bit questionable whether we've had a proper test of it. Yes, we've had a test here over a day, but I wonder whether we really need to sort of like retest that one more time before going up. Let's just check that on the weekly. You can see the weekly chart maybe is a little bit clearer. We haven't had a weekly test of that area, and I do find that a little bit concerning. If we come back a little bit to some of these zones here, this was probably just about the pattern that we were sort of like looking at with the S&P at that point, and it did really test it eventually. But pretty much it kind of tested along that level. So it does tend to, it's rare that it wouldn't test such an important zone when we consider that these were all-time highs, earlier in the year. These were the highs of the year, and we haven't been back there. So I'm looking for the S&P to drift down around about 100 pips, and if the S&P does that, then the FTSE could be under some extreme stress, because this would be a retest. This would be a test in a bullish looking market. But the FTSE 100 is not that. The FTSE 100 does look like a bit of distribution up here to me. So it's a bit concerning. If it took out this level, different picture. If it takes out this high up here, different picture. Then I do believe that we go to here before we start to see the market ease down again. But right now I'm looking at this level, potentially holding. Like to see what this bar looks like by the end of the week, because if this is, something of a high test or a shooting star, if you like, that would suggest that we would maybe even get all the way down there. There could even be a 600 pip run in the FTSE over the coming year. In 2020, the presidential race is going to be hotting up. There's still there's this impeachment row going on. There's still a bit of a row with China. Bit of profit taking in this particular area isn't the most surprising thing in the world, but if that profit taking turns into potentially some actual bad data or some bad discussions from the United States and China, I think the FTSE could be under some stress. So I don't think the short is the worst thing in the world, as I say, and I think under the daily pivot, that would be a trigger.
All right, mate. Happy days.
Yeah, but let's have a look tomorrow, shall we?
We shall. I also want to develop this breakout strategy that we've been looking at. Also want to develop, but we haven't broken out of anything. It's a little bit tough to have a look at that today. And also the cable London Open trade that I'm still working on as well. I still can't remember where I had all the details of that somewhere. I used to trade it years ago, years and years ago, and I've forgotten what it was, but I'll find it somewhere.
Yeah, that'd be good. Okay, well let's discuss that tomorrow. Hopefully I'll have a bit more time with any fortune.
Yes, all right, mate. Hi, Lewis. How you doing, bud?
Hey, Lewis, you right, buddy? All right, well, let's come back tomorrow, mate. We'll do it all again then. Same trade time, same trade channel. Hopefully I'll be in better shape and we can really discuss this market. But my preference is now for some downside. Now, we should have... everybody should have got the trade down here on the monthly pivot to the upside. Profit has been taken on that now, and I've got a short in the market that I do want to kind of clear out anyway. But this area to me is another potential short. So let's have a look tomorrow and see what we got.
All right, mate. Happy days. Sounds like a plan. We will see you all tomorrow, guys.
Great stuff. All right. See you tomorrow, Jeff. Have a good one, mate.
See you, mate. You too.